I'm here in Penang, and next to me is the Chery Tiggo 9, the flagship in the Chery lineup here in Malaysia. And I spent all day yesterday driving this car in order to deliver you some proper first impressions. Now, of the Chery Tiggo 9, we've actually done a full, proper, in-depth walk around during the media preview of this car a little bit a while ago. And so if you'd like to learn more details about this car in more granular detail, you can check out that video up here. But just to recap, the Chery Tiggo 9 is the new flagship for Chery here in Malaysia. Powered by a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which produces a little bit over 250 PS and 390 Newton meters of torque, power goes to all 4 wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox. This does differ slightly from vehicles like the AMODA C9 and the Jayco J8, which while it utilizes the same 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, they instead use an 8-speed torque converter automatic from AIMAN, whereas this is a 7 DCT from Chery themselves. Now the Chery Tiggo 9, because it is a flagship, naturally this is a very large car, measuring in at over 5 meters long, packing no less than 7 seats. The Chery Tiggo 9 is notably a little bit shorter and a little bit narrower compared to the very large Jayco J8 and actually sits closer in terms of overall dimensions to the 5-seater AMODA C9. However, because this is their flagship, naturally you get a lot of flagship features, which is why, for example, we get massive alloy wheels with a lovely sort of almost wire spoke-like design wrapped in Kamho Exa tires. That's also why the Tiggo 9 is available in only 2 colors, one of which is this sort of matte grey, which is actually shared again with the AMODA C9. However, Chery insists that the driving experience of this car is significantly different, vastly improved compared to other Chery models. On top of that, they also claim that because this car is all-wheel drive as standard, the Chery Tiggo 9 offers proper off-road capability, which is why now we're going to get back in the car and talk to you a little bit more about that in further detail. So having gone from KL all the way to Penang and back, we've essentially covered about 800-ish kilometers. I drive past the Sungai Buloh R&R heading back to KL. And through this time, we've gotten to get to know the Tiggo 9 a little bit better. So despite its heft and its massive size, which you certainly appreciate when you're out on the road because this car has a lot of presence, ultimately it doesn't feel like a handful from behind the wheel. When you sit on the road, for example, this car is excellent at covering distance with a great level of refinement. And a particular area of note is actually the suspension setup in this car. Now, we couldn't get a clear answer from Chery Auto Malaysia, but it certainly feels like the local engineering team have had some degree of input, if not the ability to make some changes to the way the car has been set up overall, because this car now rides with a degree of maturity that we have not seen from previous Cherys. And it's very clear that with every new model, they're getting better and better and better at sort of slightly tuning and slightly refining these vehicles a little bit better for Malaysian market demands. Now, because the Tiggo 9 is a flagship, naturally refinement is a key area of focus for them. And one thing that we've always noted about Chery is that they tend to be very refined up to the speed limit, but then beyond it, they start to fall apart. However, that doesn't apply to the Tiggo 9 because if you were to wander beyond the speed limit, not that we recommend it nor do that at all, then you will notice that road noise that tends to make itself a little bit more present. Bear in mind that this car rides on 20-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Kumho tires, which means that there is going to be some degree of sound intrusion into the cabin, but wind noise remains very well suppressed until you are at basically license losing speeds. And so overall, this does feel like a very refined place to be. And when you take that and pair it to this car's more refined, more polished suspension setup, it just means that you feel very confident covering distance at great speed. And what I found even more impressive than that was this car's ability off-road. And so now, through the magic of editing, we will teleport back to yesterday where we drove this car on a motocross track. Now, rather unusually, we are going to take this Tiggo 9 off-road. There is a motocross track out here. I'm not entirely sure where we are at the moment, somewhere in Perak, outside of Ipoh. And they've actually organized this so that we can see just how capable this car is off the beaten track. So the Tiggo 9 is available in Malaysia as an all-wheel drive model. I'm currently in sand mode because that's the terrain that we're on. And it's paired to a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox. And one of the things that Chery is very proud of is the fact that the off-road systems on this car have been significantly refined in order to ensure that these cars maintain the ability to keep going even when conditions get a bit difficult. So we have already covered one corner. Now we're coming to the second corner where we've been advised to go a little bit up on the berm in order to see just what kind of angle this car is able to put up with. Ooh, and the traction is doing a pretty good job. I think it's my capabilities that are going to be tested more than the cars. The conditions that we're on today are mostly sandy and they're generally quite all right. The car is responding very well to throttle inputs, very smooth at that. And so far, nothing here feels particularly challenging. Now, as I'm approaching a hill, which is again just all sand, in order to test this car's traction control, I'm actually going to stop at the base of the hill in order to really put this car's traction control to the test, because I want to see just how it manages to take off on a slippery surface. So now if I come up to angle, I'm going to stop here. Now coming to a complete halt, I'm just going to hit the throttle. No fuss, very little wheel slip, even in conditions like this, which is all very good. My 360-degree camera is doing an excellent job because it's actually showing me a feed of what's going on underneath the car, which is particularly important as we come down from this hill, because there is a little bit of a gully sort of in between where the wheels need to go. And so I can actually see underneath the vehicle, which is allowing me to navigate around the hole without any issue whatsoever. This car also comes with hill descent control, which I'm not using because I trust my right foot a bit more and all I can see is the ground. And it's just going through this very effortlessly indeed. Now, the thing about this 540-degree camera is that I have actually said many times that it's kind of unnecessary when you're driving mostly about town. But when you are in conditions like this, where you actually need to pay attention to where holes might be, and when you need to navigate slightly more challenging conditions, the ability to see underneath the car in order to avoid holes and rocks and so on can come very useful indeed. And I can say with a degree of confidence, I'm going through here, the car is not fussing at all. I'm not hearing any sort of mechanical issues with this car. It feels quite ready and capable in order to just get me through these conditions without any fuss, making off-roading feel positively effortless. Of course, I will note that there are spotters around this location in order to ensure that the cars don't get into too difficult scenario, because ultimately this is a motocross course, not one that's designed for big cars like this. And so there are some obstacles that are a bit tighter than others. Like for example, up ahead, there are some massive holes that I need to avoid, because if I were to misplace a wheel, basically a corner of the car is going to go in this hole. Like, they're calling it holes. These look like sinkholes, god damn it. But anyway, as we move along, cresting a small bump on my left, and now traction control is doing its thing. It's ensuring that power is going to the wheels that actually have the necessary traction. Everything here just feels very fuss-free. It seems quite clear that Chery has done a pretty good job at ensuring that these all-wheel drive, huge luxury SUVs are actually capable off-road, perhaps more than anyone will ever really try or test or experience, which is great if you're looking at something like this to drive about in town, because at least now you know that these cars are far more capable than you will ever find out. Now we're magically back on the NKVE. So, after having done that, we continued our journey off to Penang, where, again, you have very tight city streets, urban traffic, that sort of thing. And the impressive thing about the Tiggo 9 was that, again, despite its size, it never felt like a handful. Between this car's 540-degree camera, as well as the parking sensors all the way around the vehicle, plus the excellent visibility that you enjoy all the way around, it's very easy to place the car on the road in situations where that matters, like when you're trying to navigate the streets of a very old town. And so overall, the Tiggo 9 just felt throughout all of this like a very easy companion to live with, which is not perhaps something that immediately comes to mind when you consider the fact that this is a car that measures in over 5 meters long, about 2 odd meters wide, plus with 7 seats in the back. Doesn't feel like this should be a car that should be that easy to live with, and yet it is. Now, in terms of the powertrain, this 2-liter 4-cylinder is an engine that we're very familiar with. We saw it first in the Tiggo 8 Pro. It was later employed in the AMODA C9 and the Jayco J8. And now it's come back for the Tiggo 9. Plus, it even has the same 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox, which again debuted in the Chery Tiggo 8 Pro. However, with every iteration or every new iteration of a Chery, everything just gets a little bit smoother, a little bit more polished, and a little bit more mature. And as a result, this Tiggo 9 just feels like the best Chery they've made so far. Even in traffic, this DCT feels incredibly smooth with a very natural creep ability, which feels even better and more convincing than what you get from some Volkswagens with their DSG gearboxes, which means that this should be a pretty easy companion to live with. Now, of course, in terms of fuel consumption, based on our driving and the way we've been driving, naturally, a realistic number couldn't really be produced because we have been testing these cars very thoroughly. And that usually results in some slightly skewed numbers. But we should be reviewing this car very, very soon. Then at that point, we'll be able to talk a little bit more in detail about more practical aspects of living with a Chery Tiggo 9. But as far as first impressions go, it's very clear that the Tiggo 9 will rightfully take its place as the flagship model in the Chery lineup. This is the most mature, the most polished, the most refined Chery that has been produced to date. And it does really stand as testament of just what Chery can do when their intent is to make something that is as aspirational as the Chery Tiggo 9. In any case, that concludes our media preview drive of the Chery Tiggo 9. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to be notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the links are in the description below, including a link to join our new WhatsApp channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care and stay safe.